Whether you admit it or not, everybody on this planet has hopes and dreams. Some big, some small, some normal, some weird. But the only thing I've ever wanted in my entire life is to see Luigi drive through London. Yeah. That'll be the day, won't it? In 2014, the Wii U was blessed with one of the best racing games of all time. Oh, and Mario Kart 8. From 2014 until 2022, there was no mention of any new Mario Kart game excluding various spin-offs, and honestly, fans were getting desperate. It had been over 7 years since Mario Kart 8 released, and Tour just wasn't cutting it. It was about time we got some new Mario Kart content. Mario Kart Tour tracks? Nintendo announced the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, which was 6 sets of new tracks coming to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't know about you, but more tracks is all I really wanted at this point. I mean, it seemed kinda perfect. Until you looked at the tracks. Base Mario Kart 8 has some of the prettiest tracks and locations in a Nintendo game. I mean, the game is polished beyond belief. But these new ones looked undercooked. But who knows? Maybe they were just unfinished and they would polish them up before release. Oh. I mean, yes, these tracks definitely weren't up to the quality of the base game, but at the end of the day, these are more well-designed Mario Kart tracks. So was it really that big of a deal? Apparently. The first 2 cups of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass released on March 18th, 2022. And after playing a race or two of these, it was clear they were ripped directly from Mario Kart Tour, the microtransaction-ridden mobile game. But just because it's from Mario Kart Tour doesn't mean it's bad. But as one of our founding fathers said, a good tour track's got nothing on a Mario Kart 8 track. Regardless, I don't think starting the pack directly with Paris Promenade was a good move. But how about the next one in the pack? Ooh. Okay, so the Booster Course Pass didn't make the best first impression, but nobody plays Mario Kart Wii and quits after Luigi Circuit, so let's give it a shot. Welcome to the Golden Dash Cup, the first cup playable in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. The Grand Prix starts us directly with the previous mentioned Paris Promenade, a race that has you driving down the streets of Paris, France as the music gives you the slight yearn for French bread. But as for tour tracks, there's nothing wrong with this one. In fact, it's one of the better tour tracks available in the game. The layout isn't overly complicated and it's got some fun alternate routes, but it's a tour track. A track made for a mobile game. The track has these giant red arrows to signify where to go next and what area of the map to avoid, and these are going to be a staple for the rest of the DLC, but my problem with these is the track shouldn't confuse the player on where to go, and adding these giant red arrows kinda kills the look of some of these. But regardless, Paris Promenade shows off something you never see in Mario Kart 8 until now, and that is on lap 3, the track makes you drive backwards through it on an alternate route, which for the first time playing was honestly something I did not expect to see. But for those who didn't play it, Mario Kart Tour does this thing where you can play alternate versions of each track. So when you play one race of Paris Promenade and another mission based around it shows up in your challenge timeline, the game likes to throw an alternate route at you to change things up, and clearly they didn't want these to go to waste. So what they do here is mix these tour alternate tracks into one big race with alternate routes each lap. And that works for this map specifically, but down the road there might be some complications. But at the end of the day, Paris Promenade is not the strongest race to start the pack with, but it definitely could be worse. Oh, I have some fond memories of Mario Kart 7. As a personal Toad fan, seeing a Mario Kart game start with a Toad theme track was so refreshing. And I'm a sucker for the circuit tracks, oh no. And this is where people's issues with the Booster Course Pass really start. What did they do? As I said before, these are clearly ripped directly from Mario Kart Tour. And compared to a normal Mario Kart 8 track, this just looks bad. I mean, look at the grass. It doesn't even have a texture. That's just solid green. At the end of the day, more tracks are more tracks, but like, oh, I used to like Toad Circuit. Moving from that, maybe Toad Circuit was a fluke. Maybe the next track will be better. Okay, I can't imagine anyone out there was watching the first trailer for this and said, "Holy crap, they finally did it! They added N64 Choco Mountain to Mario Kart 8!
can't believe she's leaving me. Oh my god! Oh my god! Yes! Oh my god! They added it! They added it! Choco Mountain! Choco Mountain! Oh my god! Oh my god! Bro! Choco Mountain! Woo! Choco Mountain.
Now, to me, this one looks better than Toad Circuit, but I think that's because its original counterpart was from 1996. Genuinely, I used to hate this one. In the original N64 version, it was funny because if you fell off at a certain point, you had to redo a major section of the track. And obviously that wasn't carried over to here. But the layout is alright, and over time I've grown to appreciate it. But like, you want to sell us on the booster course pass and you give me Cocoa Puff Mountain? Yeah, no, you're gonna need something much bigger than Oh, holy crap, it's all worth it! Now this is the type of track you want to start with. Coconut Mall is one of the highest regarded Mario Kart tracks of all time, and for good reason too. Overall, this race just has such a good layout with so many fun areas to race down, but there's some weird things they did to this one. Like for example, the Shy Guys in the parking lot? When this came out, they didn't move. That's stupid. But they eventually updated that, and as it stands now, this is such a fun track and there really isn't much negative to say about this one. Coconut Mall was definitely the pull to the booster course pass if you were looking for that it track. This was it. And with Mario Kart 8's physics, it feels right at home racing through the mall once again. All in all, the Golden Dash Cup was such a weird way to start the booster course pass. I mean, starting with a tour track to a bad looking circuit track to whatever you want to say about Choco Mountain was definitely weird. But I think they knew the minute they showed us Coconut Mall, we would almost instantly forget about the other three tracks. I know I did. But the Golden Dash Cup wasn't the only cup to release in the first wave. We also got the Lucky Cat Cup. Welcome to the Lucky Cat Cup. It starts with a tour track. Now this isn't as bad here because it's not the first cup in the DLC, so it isn't your first impression of the booster course pass. Either way, this one starts out with Tokyo Blur. Now you'd imagine the Tokyo track would be a sick drive down a nighttime cityscape with bright colorful lights zooming by as you see the wonderful architecture Tokyo has to offer, but no! You drive through Tokyo at noon and it doesn't really feel like you're in a city, it feels like you're on the outskirts of a city. By all means, it's not a bad track, it's just underwhelming. I mean, of all Tokyo's super cool locations, you spend the last half of the track on an overpass? Moving on from Overpass Central, you jump directly into Mario Kart DS's Shroom Ridge. Really pulling out the stops here, huh? Shroom Ridge was a fine track in Mario Kart DS. Nothing too special, but man, does it look bad in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think of all tracks, this one looks the worst. The solid color backgrounds don't mesh well with the detailed character models and cars driving around the track. Genuinely, this track feels like you're taking a Sunday drive. If that Sunday drive was through Idaho. That's not a good thing, by the way. The cup then proceeds to end with Ninja Hideaway. Now the game likes to feature this as a new track, but don't be fooled, it came out on tour a year prior to its Mario Kart 8 release. Either way though, this is a solid track. It feels completely fresh compared to the rest of the game with its inclusion of multiple alternate routes packed with its upbeat moving music and honestly the difficulty jump. This one was a welcome surprise. The Lucky Cat Cup is easily the worst cup the Booster Course Pass has to offer. None of these races, excluding Ninja Hideaway, really stand out on their own. And don't get me wrong, I love Ninja Hideaway, but it's just not enough to save this cup. And that wraps up Wave 1 of the Booster Course Pass. Honestly, it really isn't the best set of races. They're not bad per se, all of them have decent layouts, but other than Coconut Mall and Ninja Hideaway, they don't really have any standouts. But honestly, it really didn't matter because at the end of the day, these are new tracks to Mario Kart 8, and decent or not, this was a huge deal. In August of that same year, after what felt like forever, we would finally get the second wave of tracks. Now, hopes weren't really through the roof after the expectations set by the first wave, so let's start with a bang. No Come on! The Turnip Cup starts out with New York Minute, one of the earlier tour tracks, and while you can kinda tell, I still enjoy this one a lot. Is it because I'm biased to that city? Sure, but you can kinda tell Nintendo is too. Sometimes it seems like they really love New York City. Especially with how many different areas you see in this one, like you drive from Central Park to Rockefeller Plaza. But as previously stated, a good tour track has got nothing on a good Mario Kart track. So I sure hope they don't start a majority of these cups with tour tracks. At the end of the day though, I think New York Minute is a much better city track than the other tour ones. I could still do without the stupid red arrows, but what are you gonna do? Following New York Minute, we have Mario Circuit 3. How many times did they bring this one back? Back with its piss yellow solid sky colors, Mario Circuit 3 offers one of the most boring tracks in the game. Look, I'm a sucker for classic circuit tracks, but I've seen this one way too much. I mean, you can do a Super Mario Kart track justice, but this isn't it. This is just boring and bland. I do like New York Minute, sure, but man, are these two races not the most promising start on the planet. So if they want us to be excited, they better blow us away. Oh, Calamari Desert, my beloved, how I have missed you. One of the simplest yet most charming N64 tracks from your tunnels to your tumbleweed. I'm so happy to see you return. What? No, they found a way to ruin Calamari Desert. How do you ruin Calamari Desert? Upon reaching lap 2, the game likes to do this booster course bolt and change the lap by making you drive off track on this very out of place ramp onto a tiny track where you'll come head to head with a train as you plow through the following tunnel. This section is way too tight for 12 racers and just feels extremely out of place. There should at least be an option to play the original version. Regardless, it's still a pretty solid track because, well, Calamari Desert, but man. Then the Turnip Cup ends with a fan favorite, Waluigi Pinball. Bright colors, fancy sounds, it makes sense why everybody loves this one. It's got a very engaging layout too, and it works really well with Mario Kart 8's physics. Too bad I hate pinball. The Turnip Cup was a step in the right direction. It's much better than the previous two cups due to a better tour track, and even if it was neutered Calamari Desert, and a wonderfully solid Waluigi Pinball. Following the Turnip Cup, Wave 2 also has the Propeller Cup. Oh, I can only imagine what solid track we could be starting with. The Grand Prix starts with Sydney Sprint. I know a lot of people like this one, but I don't know. Other than the music, I feel extremely indifferent to this track. I wouldn't select it myself, but I probably wouldn't be mad if someone else chooses it. But following that, we have... Wait. This is a good Super Circuit track. Snowland is a charming drive through a winter wonderland with moving blocks that line up in a row so you can grab them before all your friends. And overall, it's a charming redesign. If you want to recreate a Super Circuit track or Super Mario Kart track, this is the way to do it. Keep the simple charm, but add some flair. These penguins need to piss off, though. But directly after Snowland, we got Mushroom Gorge. Now, I grew up with the Wii, so I might be... I think they did this track justice. This is a fan favorite. Great music and a great layout. I wonder what banger they'll finish the cup with. What in the Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout Dizzy Heights looking Blender Dome feeling fruit shoot resembling slime climb whirligig type map is this? This is another one of those new tracks that when it was clearly designed, it was designed for tour. It's an ice cream themed map up in the sky. and in concept there's some neat ideas at play here. Its main gimmick is to have players jumping around in a high intensity map, but due to it being a big oval with a couple needless split paths, it misses the mark sometimes. There's segments like this one with a railing at the start, which is neat, but like, why even have the railings if you just drive through and boost off of them? I could honestly do without this one. Regardless of its slow start and mild finish, the Propeller Cup closes out Wave 2. Genuinely, this is where it started to pick up steam in my opinion. Wave 2 had Snowland, Calamari Desert, Waluigi Pinball, and Mushroom Gorge. If you weren't convinced to play it yet, I think these were some solid choices because even if you say a map isn't that good, at the end of the day, there really isn't an unplayable Mario Kart 8 track. But we were nowhere near done yet because on December 7th, 2022, Wave 3 released and it started the Rock Cup. Starts with a tour track, doesn't it? Of course it does. Welcome to London Loop, the map where you have to stop and go out of your way to find its most notable landmark. Oh, that's where Big Ben is! This map desperately needed a glider section near the clock because without it, this map becomes incredibly forgettable. This is when the tour maps really started to blend together. Like, this is just a city and nothing else. If you're gonna do 3 sections instead of laps, you gotta make each one stand out. But following that, we moved back to Super Circuit for another one that I quite enjoyed. At first glance, Boo Lake does look a tad bit boring, but I like ghost tracks and this one's theme goes really hard, so I quite enjoy this one. Following that, we had Rock Mountain. Back when this came out, this was the defining map of Mario Kart 7. It showed off the glider in such a fun way. What? No, they killed Rock Mountain! This track just looks so boring now. There's no way around it. They killed the fun aesthetic. The pack ends with Maple Tree Way, which is a great race, sure, but boy does it get overshadowed by the rest of this underwhelming pack. Sadly, the Rock Cup sort of seems like the first nail in the coffin. The selection and presentation for these, excluding Maple Tree Way, was just so underwhelming. It was gonna be tough to come back from this one. The Moon Cup released in the same wave and finished out the top row of tracks and immediately started with a tour track that looked almost identical to London Loop. The only real difference here is you can tell where the Berlin Wall is. It's nice being able to distinguish the map by its landmarks, sure, but my only problem with this is, and I don't know a whole lot about history, but like, I don't know. I feel like maybe we shouldn't paint Mario characters all over the Berlin Wall. I don't know, that might just be me though. Moving on from Berlin Byways, we have a DS track that honestly I used to hate. Welcome to Peach Gardens. Now this was never a favorite of mine, and racing through it again feels a little more natural on Mario Kart 8 for some reason. I don't know, the physics just work with this. Wait, what's this? Ooh, now this is a fun little change. On the last lap of this one, the game throws a new route at you that makes you fight against traffic, then race the course backwards, which caught me off guard, but definitely made this worth the replay. Next up, we have a Christmas-themed race. With this pack releasing on December 7th, it was kinda nice to see a winter wonderland through what looks like Santa's workshop. Genuinely, I'm quite excited for this one. Wait, it's over? Talk about blinking, you'll miss it. Holy crap! And this is a charming race overall. I mean, it's got neat alternate routes, a fun glider finish, and some overall good segments, but like, man, it's done so quick. It would have been nice to see it do anything to add 15 extra seconds to the race. Goodness gracious. Oh, and finally, I'll tell you this. I would be disappointed if they didn't, but I'm so happy that they did. The Moon Cup ends with 3DS Rainbow Road. This is my second favorite Rainbow Road track of all time. It has you racing on Saturn's rings to the moon, and oh, it's just so cool. The Booster Course Pass does this cool thing where they changed up the texture of the road too, and it's really pretty in the end. Definitely a hype way to finish out the top row. The Moon Cup honestly has some solid tracks. Things looked a little brighter than they did at the start of this wave. Honestly, the first half of the Booster Course Pass had some major ups and downs. Some tracks suffered in the journey over, and for some reason they brought back Mario Circuit 3. That was a wild day, wasn't it? But I'd be lying if I said there weren't any great ones in here. At this point in time, we kinda knew what to expect coming forward, and going into 2023, Wave 4 was right around the corner. Now, Wave 4 started out a bit different than the rest of them. And no, I don't mean it didn't start with a tour track because you and I both know it did. I mean it added a new character. This time around, we could now play as Birdo, which was huge because that left the possibility for more future playable characters. But let's not dwell on it for now, let's jump right back into the tracks. The pack starts off immediately with Amsterdam Drift. This one kinda sucks. Next up we have Riverside Park! I don't know what it is about Super Circuit tracks, but like, these are the most mild tracks on the planet. Like, this one has a neat premise. Like, it's a jungle map that's not centered around Donkey Kong. That's cool, but it's teeny tiny. It's like, okay man, I sure do wish there was more, but nope. Maybe this all stems from me being a middle child and demanding more attention as a kid, but I don't really care for this. Next up, they knocked it out of the park with DK Summit. I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this, but it's just a better version of DK Mountain. I really do like this track. It might be because, but I think this one is really solid. I also really like to ski, so. I will say it is stupid that you're not invincible after you jump out of the cannon though. The Fruit Cup finishes up with Yoshi's Island. Now this might be one of the best tracks in the past. This is a track fully centered around the Yoshi's Island SNES game. We get 3D models of some of these characters that we have not seen in 3D before, cool locations, and some neat ideas like this bridge at the end of the race. All of that topped off with amazing music. Now this is how you make a new track. The love for Yoshi's Island is real apparent with this one. Wrapping up the Fruit Cup, this was honestly a solid start to the new year of booster course tracks. DK Summit and Yoshi's Island really do bring it home. Amsterdam Drift may be one of the most forgettable tracks in the game, but honestly with a track like Yoshi's Island, it really doesn't matter. But Wave 4 wasn't quite done yet. It also had the Boomerang Cup. The major problem with tour tracks is typically their layouts and design are so basic that they start to blend together. That's why London Loop, Berlin Byways, and Amsterdam Drift are all kind of a letdown. But the Boomerang Cup starts off with Bangkok Rush. And honestly, this one's a breath of fresh air. Racing down these tight corridors with hard turns really helps bring this one to life. Honestly, this is one of the few tour tracks that feels like the location they're trying to create. I actively return to this one. Each segment has its own personality too. So, a Mario Kart staple is the circuit tracks. You can't have a Mario Kart game without these, it's just how it works. A lot of people tend to, well, not get too excited when a circuit track comes back. In fact, there's a select few who go nuts when they get announced. I am that select few. The only circuit tracks I could do without are the GBA ones and the SNES ones, but if one like Mario Kart Wii, DS, or 7s were to make it into 8 Deluxe, I would go through the roof. So you can imagine my excitement when Mario Circuit DS was announced. Now, is this a basic Mario Circuit track? You know, the type of track to put Peach's Castle in the background and call it a day? Sure. Does it have a generic layout? Sure. Do I love it? Yes, I do. What? Is it a crime to be basic? After Mario Circuit, the Booster Course Pass brings us Waluigi Stadium. And I know this is a fan favorite, probably due to it being tied to Waluigi, but I personally never cared for this one. I think it's much more playable at 8, but it's still one that I probably won't play. Sorry. After Waluigi Pinball, we have Singapore Speedway. Wait, is this a second tour map? In the same cup? No, it can't be. This shouldn't be scientifically possible. No, the research backs it. It's not possible. No. Singapore Speedway is actually a pretty good tour track. This is what the Japan map should have been. A pretty nice skyline with cool locations, lighting, and fun areas. This might be one of the few maps that makes me want to visit the actual Singapore. It looks pretty cool. And that wraps up the Boomerang Cup. Despite having 2 tour tracks, there are 3 really solid options here. The Cup closes out Wave 4 with a decent amount of good tracks and a new character. Safe to say, Wave 4 was really solid, and a couple of these tracks you could kinda tell the quality of the textures was going up. It seems like Nintendo listened to the feedback just a little bit. As time went on, we eventually got the second to last wave of the DLC, and this one came out swinging with 3 new characters. Kamek, who after getting shelved multiple times is finally playable, Wiggler returns from 7, and PD returns from Double Dash. Honestly, all solid additions. But with such strong characters, we should be in for a treat, right? No, I don't like this one. Athens seems like a cool setting for a tour track, and I'll give it this, it does look distinct enough to be different from the other tour tracks, but man, does this one suck. Athens Dash is one of the worst tracks in the Booster Course Pass. It features a layout that feels like you were playing Mario Maker and dropped your Wii U gamepad mid-designing and uploaded the course anyway because you were too lazy to change it. There's a lot of ideas here, but it just feels wrong. The best way to sum it up is it feels like a modded track. And not a good one. The turns feel unnatural and they seem to work against the already established Mario Kart formula. This track makes me actively not want to visit Athens. But it doesn't matter because immediately after that the game dives right into Daisy Cruiser. I mean, how can you not like this track? It's about driving through a cruise ship. It's so much fun. I don't know why, but they took this track and they just shrunk it, like the entire thing. They literally just squished it until it was smaller. And it's not too big of a deal for the most part. But areas like the underwater segment feel unnatural due to this change. But at the end of the day, it's still Daisy Cruiser, so solid track. Following that, we have Moonview Highway. I like this one. This is just a better Toad's Turnpike for me. It feels faster and more intense, and honestly, I think it fits pretty well with Mario Kart 8's physics. I do know a lot of people were getting sick of the Wii tracks at this point, but well. So I was pretty happy when it came to this one. And finally, the Feather Cup ends with Squeaky Clean Sprint. Now this is a banger track. Any track where you're really small always leads for the coolest concepts. Honestly, this one feels like it's from base Mario Kart 8 too. It has an extremely intuitive layout with wonderful music, and again, the concept of just being small always works for Mario Kart. This, in my opinion, is the best track in the Booster Course Pass so far. Wrapping up the Feather Cup with some really good choices, even though it started with a PSA to never visit Athens, it definitely found its footwork as the cup went on. I mean, Daisy Cruiser into Moonview Highway into Squeaky Clean Sprint, how can it get better than this? Well, not like that. The Cherry Cup starts off with Los Angeles laps. This one is just straight up not fun. I feel like they could have had more fun with LA, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we finally have one of the good Mario Kart Super Circuit tracks. Why does the sun not set? So the whole point of Sunset Wilds is that every lap the sun goes down more and more. But in this one, it's constantly sunset. And people are saying, oh, well, it wouldn't work online. Counterpoint. Just make it set when the first player passes the starting line. There are many workarounds. Without the sun setting, this just becomes a generic, boring, bad, lazy, awful, miserable. After Sunset Wilds, we get Koopa Cape, one of the most memorable tracks from the Wii. But I don't know, this one just doesn't feel right in Mario Kart 8. Does anyone else get the sense that it's smaller? I don't think it is, but also they ruined the backdrops, and it's just kind of boring now. The whole aesthetic is kind of ruined. The cup then ends with Vancouver, which honestly, I just don't have the fight in me anymore to get mad about another double tour track cup. It's just starting to seem like they're pulling out more fan favorites to cover their tracks for dropping a larger ratio of tour tracks, but it's alright because Vancouver Velocity is a decent track. I may be really bad at it, but it's a solid tour track, I'll give it that. Dude, holy crap, they threw all the momentum of Wave 5 away. It started out with a bang with the Feather Cup, but then the Cherry Cup was awful. I mean, at least you did get 3 new characters in one solid cup. It may have seemed like a long journey at the time, but looking back at it, these tracks were released rather quickly. With ups and downs, it was time. Time for the final wave to release and finish up the pack. But how are they going to handle the end? With a bang or a fizzle? On November 9th, 2023, Nintendo came out swinging with 4 new characters. Pauline, Peachette, Diddy Kong, and the long-awaited Funky Kong. Now that is a great start. but we know what we're here for. So welcome to the Acorn Cup. In booster course fashion, it starts out with Rome Avanti, the definition of Italy. You can tell by this pizza building. That's it, just pizza. Other than that, this is a decent tour map. It looks very pretty, and it's on the better side of tour tracks until you look at the map. Holy crap, I get they're going for an Italian feel, but did the mini-map need to be a bowl of spaghetti? Moving on from that, we have DK Mountain from Mario Kart Double Dash. Get your pitchforks ready, everybody, because I do not care for DK Mountain. Look, I get the appeal, but something about the turns here never felt natural. But regardless of what I think, the stages are starting to look a little better. The Acorn Cup then drops a Wii track that honestly I think is a little underrated. Daisy's Circuit. This is a fantastic track. I love the sun setting in the background, the fun simple layout. Tracks like these are always quite enjoyable. And finally, the cup ends with Piranha Plant Cove. Now this one was new to me. I don't know when it was added to tour, but it definitely was. This is a decent track, but I don't know, it's kind of forgettable in my opinion. Nothing wrong with it, it just doesn't really stand out. Wrapping up the Acorn Cup, honestly not the worst cup in the pack. A couple decent tracks, but now's the time. The last cup in the DLC. The Spiny Cup starts with Madrid Drive, a map where the bright daylight works in its favor as you drive through buildings like an art museum and a mall, all while being accompanied with excellent dynamic music. This one works really well as an advertisement for Madrid, honestly. I like the soccer field with the Goomba shoes, too. Followed by that is Rosalina's Ice World. Anytime I see Galaxy references, I do a little jump for joy. This map has a very you love it or hate it layout, but you can't argue it's very pretty. I don't really know why Rosalina has an ice world. I guess because she's light blue, but I don't know. Still, it's a pretty map. Speaking of pretty, following that is the best-looking SNES track remake, Bowser's Castle 3. Honestly, you can't even recognize it was from the Super Nintendo. It's insane how they redid this one. This is a good example of how to redo a Super Mario Kart track. Elevation is key. And finally, the Booster Course Pass DLC wraps up with Wii Rainbow Road, the track that taught me almost everything I know about Mario Kart today. This is the way to end a DLC. With a very pretty redesign and oh so wonderful music to accompany it, Wii Rainbow Road still upholds the challenge that it stated all the way back on the Wii. To me, this will always be the definitive Rainbow Road. All down to every single detail, whether it be when you meteor towards Earth when you fall off, or the star bits in the air. Or I guess lack of said air. This is a track that's hard to replicate, and I'm oh so happy they ended the pack this way. Wave 6 was very solid. You could tell more effort was going into these tracks as the layouts and textures improved over time. I forgot to mention it did add a ton of Mii outfits as well, so yeah, great final wave. The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass really is a road trip through Mario Kart Tour's graveyard filled with so many ups and downs. There definitely was a lot of weird decisions Nintendo took when both picking out and remaking these tracks, and it's a little sad the quality is not as good as base Mario Kart 8's track quality. But at the end of the day, this is 48 tracks added onto the original game's pre-existing 48, making this game total out to 96 total tracks. Which is insane to think about, especially when you remember the DLC only cost $25. If you own Mario Kart 8, this is for sure a must-buy alongside it, because at the end of the day, more Mario Kart is never a bad thing. I mean, 96 tracks, over 40 characters, a ton of carts, and 8 battle stages? Mario Kart 8 Deluxe truly does feel like the definitive Mario Kart experience. Too bad I'll always be biased to Mario Kart Wii, though.